Hey everyone, it's Sarah Jane with ChicOnTheCheap, and today's video is all about my wedding. So it's been about a month since my wedding day, and I've had some time to reflect on the highs and lows, the things that I loved about my wedding day, and then the things that I would do a little bit differently if I could go back and do it all over again. And hopefully the message or the takeaway from this video is that if you are a current bride-to-be and you're planning your upcoming wedding, just know your wedding day is not gonna go exactly as you planned it. However, you're still gonna love it. So I could not have predicted the crazy events that happened on my wedding day, but it was still the most magical and wonderful day of my life. So I hope you guys enjoy this video. Let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so we have a little guest here to start the video. I never know when he's going to join us, but I always love it when he does. And I did want to say, before we start talking about the wedding, I wanted to mention the sponsor of today's video, HomeAglow. If you haven't heard of HomeAglow, it's a top-rated cleaning service platform dedicated to making your space clean and tidy. Booking a cleaner in your area is so easy. All you have to do is go to HomeAglow's website, choose the day and time that works best for your schedule, and you'll see all available cleaners. And just so you know, and for a little peace of mind, HomeAglow's cleaners pass a rigorous certification process and maintain a 4.8 star average rating. And I was so impressed with the cleaner we booked. She did an amazing job. She showed up on time, she was friendly, and she went above and beyond with her cleaning services. She even left these cool vacuum lines on our couch. And as you just saw, we have a cat and he tends to shed a lot, and there was not a speck of cat hair anywhere. To me, one of the best feelings in the world is having a clean home. It's one of the greatest gifts you can give yourself, and that way you can spend your time focused on other important things, for instance, planning a wedding. So if you want to take home cleaning off your plate, now is a great time to use HomeAglow. Just go to homeaglow.com/ChicOnTheCheap, or simply just scan the QR code here on the screen to get your first 3 hours of cleaning for only $19. Thanks to HomeAglow for sponsoring this video. Now on to the wedding details. Okay, so I was trying to figure out where best to start with this video, and I thought I would start with the positives. So these were the things that I loved the most from our wedding weekend, and I do have to say at the top of the list was the location, the venue. So we got married at the Grove Park Inn. If you're not familiar with the Grove Park Inn, it's a very historic resort built in 1913. It's in Asheville, North Carolina. It's in the middle of the Blue Ridge Mountains. So it's in a stunning location. It's a beautiful resort. It's very different looking. It was, built a really long time ago, but it does have a very old world look and feel to it. A lot of important people have stayed there, including a lot of presidents. I'm very into history, so I love the historical ties there. I also used to go to Grove Park Inn as a little girl to celebrate my grandmother's birthday. They have a fabulous buffet, and different years my grandmother would have her birthdays there. So it was also very special to me in that regard. I had a very close relationship with my grandmother, and so it just reminded me of her when I was there. So just wanted to say that. Don't want to get emotional, but just know that I love the venue so much, and it was just incredible. Okay, so next let's talk about positives from the rehearsal dinner. Now we did have the rehearsal dinner the night before the wedding. It was also at Grove Park Inn. It was at the country club, and it was lovely. And the first thing that I'm so glad that we did was we asked our friends and family to give their speeches during the rehearsal dinner. And this went so well. The speeches were so good. It was an intimate setting, and we were able to hear everyone, and just I don't know, I feel like giving speeches in front of a lot of people, like what would have happened on the wedding day during the reception, a lot more people were there. It can be a bit nerve-wracking, and that way if we had speeches during our rehearsal dinner, then it was just a bit more special. And I don't know, I just really loved that we did that. And hindsight, it was really great too, because I'll talk about this in a little bit, but our wedding day was shortened, so this worked out really well. The next thing I loved about our rehearsal dinner was the music. So I feel like a lot of people put a lot of importance on music for their wedding day. So the ceremony, the reception, the cocktail hour, all of those things, which is very important. But I do feel like the rehearsal dinner gets overlooked when it comes to an event where you definitely want to have music. So I highly recommend bringing a Bluetooth speaker and having a playlist ready for your rehearsal dinner. I was just so glad that I had some oldies playing throughout the entire night. So I love oldies, and I knew that's the kind of vibe I wanted to have for our rehearsal dinner. We did have a really quick rehearsal for the wedding. Then we had a couple of hours of an open bar, lots of socializing, and then we also had a sit-down dinner. And all throughout the night, I had lovely oldies playing, and it was just so special. So highly recommend playing some sort of music during your rehearsal dinner and not having it too loud, but just loud enough to be heard and enjoyed. The next thing I loved was Colton's groom's cake. So Colton went to Mississippi State and Grove Park Inn was able to make him a lovely groom's cake with the Mississippi State logo on top and red velvet on the inside. That's his favorite cake flavor. And not only was the cake beautiful, it also was delicious. So Colton loved that so much. And another thing that just was a huge highlight for Colton that evening were turkeys. So Colton is from Mississippi, and if you know, you know, Mississippi boys love their turkeys. And during the evening, 2 huge gobblers came up to where we were having the rehearsal dinner, and Colton was just loving it so much. So couldn't have planned that better myself. So that was another highlight of the night. And I love the flowers. The flowers were so beautiful at our rehearsal dinner. I'd asked our wedding planners to put together some colorful spring mixes to use as centerpieces on every table at the rehearsal dinner. And boy, did they deliver. These flowers were gorgeous, better than I could have even dreamed. So big shout out to our wedding planners, Bobby Marks Designs. I will have their information linked and listed down in the description box below. I highly recommend them. And they also saved the day that night. So Colton and I, as we were getting ready for the rehearsal dinner about an hour beforehand, Colton realized he did not have his suit. So he had left his suit at home. And so our house was about 2 hours away from Grove Park Inn. Again, the dinner was only an hour away, so there was no way he was going to be able to drive home and get the suit. So he had to go buy an entirely new suit. He went to Men's Warehouse, which was down the road from the hotel, and shout out to Men's Warehouse as well, because Colton was able to call them on the way, very frantic, you know, hey, I am missing my suit. I have to get a new one. This is my size. This is what I'm looking for. So when he walked through the door at Men's Warehouse, they had the suit sitting out for him, steamed, ready to go. All he had to do was try it on to make sure it fit, and he was able to buy it, make it back to Grove Park Inn. And we were a little late for the rehearsal dinner. I'd wanted to be there early so I could help set up, but our wedding planners took care of everything so that when we walked through the door, just everything was already set up. All of the tables were perfect. All of our signs, just, I mean, I cannot say enough nice things about our wedding planners and the fact that they even like took care of our rehearsal dinner, which wasn't a part of like their obligation at all, or like what I paid them to do. So big shout out to our wedding planners. Thank you so much for all that you did for us. Okay, so let's talk about regrets from the rehearsal dinner. Do I have any regrets? If I could go back and do anything over again, would I? And yes, there are 2 things that I would go back and change. Of course, the first thing is to ask Colton to check and double check that he had his suit before we left our house for the wedding weekend. That would have helped us avoid a lot of the chaos that ensued in the hour leading up to the rehearsal dinner. And I mean, he really went through it. I felt so bad for him. He was so stressed out, rushing to the store, buying the suit, rushing back. We were of course late. I mean, everything worked out, but it was just very chaotic. So I wish I could go back and just remind Colton to grab his suit. And then the second thing I would have done differently is I would have hired a professional photographer to document the night. So if you do have room in your budget to hire a professional photographer to document your rehearsal dinner, I highly recommend it, because you do have all of these people in one room together, dressed up, that you don't get to see very often. It's just such a special evening. I really wish I had thought to hire a professional photographer to document the evening, and that is definitely a big regret that I have. Okay, so next let's talk about things I loved from the day of the wedding. And the first thing that comes to mind was really like the first thing that happened that day, and that was seeing all of my friends and family get their hair and makeup done. So I did treat my bridesmaids and my mom, my mother-in-law, and different relatives to hair and makeup. I hired a whole team to just do everyone's makeup, do everyone's hair, so they would feel pretty on the day of the wedding. And it was just really fun to see them get their hair and makeup done. And also it was really nice to spend time with people that mean so much to me, but I rarely get to see, and they were all in one room. So we had food, we had music, and everyone just looked gorgeous. So that was something that I really loved from the wedding day. The next thing I loved about the wedding day were the first looks. So I did have 3. I had one with my bridesmaids, I had another with my twin brother, and then the third, of course, I had with Colton. They were all so special, and I know a lot of brides aren't into first looks. They want the first time their groom sees them to be when they are walking down the aisle, which is very special. However, I knew I couldn't handle like such a buildup. I'm a very emotional person. I cry so easily, so I thought a first look sounded like a great idea, and I'm just so glad that we did that. We also did all of our photos ahead of the wedding, so that's another thing that I do recommend, is taking all of your photos ahead of the wedding so that once the ceremony is over, you can go straight to your cocktail hour and enjoy that, so you can see the people that you love and that have traveled so far to be with you, and people that you don't see often. I mean, gosh, it is just such a wonderful thing to have so many people that you love and care about in one room, and you want to spend every second that you can with those people. I also love the sleeves on my wedding dress. Yes, so if you know, you know, when it comes to photos, sometimes your arms can be your best friend and sometimes your arms can be your enemy. And I've had my arms let me down many times in photos where you think you have your arm in like a good position, but then you see the photo and you're like, oh my gosh, is that my arm? So the last thing I wanted to worry about when it came to like my wedding day and having all of these photos taken of me was the position of my arms. I wanted to make sure that I could be carefree, and one way I could assure myself of that was to have sleeves with my wedding dress. And not only do I feel like the sleeves looked great, they also allowed me to be carefree with my arms throughout the day. And you know, they're a little controversial. Are you pro sleeves or anti sleeves when it comes to wedding dresses? I loved my sleeves so much, so highly recommend sleeves on your wedding day if you're worried about your arms letting you down in photos. I also love the additions to my bouquet. So one thing I knew I wanted to have with me was my dad's wedding ring. I lost my dad when I was 13 years old, and I don't want to get emotional, but I had his wedding ring attached to my bouquet. I also had my grandmother's engagement ring attached to the bouquet, and then I had a pin that belonged to my Nana, that's what I called her, my dad's mom. I had her pin attached to the bouquet as well, so I just wanted to have both of my grandmothers represented and also my dad, and that was very special to me as well. Next, when it came to the actual wedding and the ceremony, there was so much that I loved, starting with our tent. So I had always wanted to have a tent on our wedding day, and this was just a big dream for me, and I was just so impressed. Despite what I'm going to tell you in a little bit, I just love the tent so much, with the hanging chandeliers and just the whole aesthetic the tent gave us was just so pretty. I loved the floral arch. Again, big shout out to our wedding planners. They just gave us such a beautiful day. And then I also really liked the champagne greeting that all of our guests got. So there were lots of servers walking around with glasses of champagne to hand out to our guests to enjoy as they were waiting for the ceremony to start. And then I also really loved the music. So I had a lot of string quartet music playing with like modern music, and just love that so much. And if you're interested in the song that I walked down the aisle to, I bought it. It's a string version of Enchanted by Taylor Swift. And I know some people out there are rolling their eyes, but it was so beautiful. It had a great build up to it, and it created a really dramatic and emotional moment, and just such a perfect song to walk down the aisle to. And it was just a really special ceremony. So much to love, but those were my highlights. So our cocktail hour, we really didn't get to enjoy. I'll go more into that later. So our cocktail hour, I want to say, was like 15 minutes long. It was very short. And then we went right into our ceremony, but our cake was gorgeous. The food was really good. I really enjoyed our DJ. I thought he was fantastic. He just kept the night going. And I really liked our LED glasses that we had on the dance floor. So I know a lot of people have the like light up sticks on the dance floor, but we went with these like colorful LED glasses, and those were a huge hit. Other big hits of the night, we had a photo booth that a lot of people enjoyed. People also really liked the custom napkins that we had in honor of our cat. Those were really cute. And then we had some custom koozies made with the Grove Park Inn sketched on them and Colton and I's name and the date. So really liked those as like a little take home souvenir. And of course, I love the sparklers. We had the extra long or large sparklers. I think they light for over 3 minutes. So we had those, and we had a really fun exit. I did an outfit change, and it was just such a magical evening. But yes, things did go wrong, and that's the next thing we're going to talk about, were all the things that went wrong and things I would have done differently. Okay, so next let's talk about wedding regrets. Is there anything that if I could go back and do it all over again, would I do anything differently? And yes, 100%. I would have had an all indoor wedding. So the way that our wedding was set up, our tent was on something that Grove Perkin calls the Sunset Terrace. This is a stunningly beautiful area that overlooks the Blue Ridge Mountains, and at sunset, it is just the best place to be really in the world. It's just the most gorgeous view. So I couldn't have dreamed of having a better location for the tent and where we were getting married. However, I couldn't have predicted the weather, and the weather was so bad, you guys. So around 3 or 4 o'clock that day, the weather started getting bad. We were actually out on the golf course taking some photos, and it started to rain, and I was like, oh no. But I thought the rain would pass. We got back up to our getting ready room, and I didn't really think too much of the weather, just thought it was gonna scoot on by because that's what everyone was telling me. I walked out of the getting ready room to just see what the weather was looking like, and it looked like a freaking hurricane was coming through Asheville. I've never seen more rain in my entire life. I have this photo that I think is so funny where my photographer, she's looking at me making a face. My bridesmaid is like, oh no. And I am at this point just like, what in the world is happening outside? So anyways, it just was a crazy afternoon filled with the most rain that I've ever seen. And there was so much rain that the tent collapsed. So our beautiful tent that we had on the Sunset Terrace collapsed, and the crew that set it up earlier that morning, they had to be called back to repair it so that we could actually have a ceremony. So we had a 45-minute delay, and this is what I was doing to stay calm during the delay. I had some help from a little bit of alcohol, and that really just calmed my nerves a little bit throughout the entire evening. Everyone was like, you're so calm, you're so calm. But I honestly was like having a mini freak out inside. But I was just so thankful that 1, the rain stopped, and 2, they were able to put the tent together again so that we could have a ceremony. The ceremony went so well. We did have a shortened cocktail hour. I think our cocktail hour was like only 15 minutes, but then we were able to have our full reception, which was so nice. A lot of our decorations did get damaged in the storm, but truly I was just so thankful for the things that did go right. But I will say, if I could go back again and change things up, I would have done an all indoor wedding. Another regret that I have from my wedding was about my wedding dress, and do not get me wrong, I loved my wedding dress. It was so pretty. It's like the most beautiful wedding dress that I have ever seen. It's a stunner. I got so many compliments on it. However, I have a long torso, and I wish if I could go back and do it all over again, I would have had an inch or 2 added to the bodice to allow the dress to sit up a little higher on me. I think it was a little too low. And throughout the day and the evening, I was like constantly like trying to pull it up to cover myself up. I thought I had a little bit too much cleavage, and yes, it was custom fitted to me, but I don't feel like during those fittings that they accounted for the length of my torso. And then I did have, of course, other alterations and things, but through those, I was like asking other people, is this like too much? Like, how do you feel about it? And everyone was like, oh, you look great, you know? And I really should have just gone with my gut and like had, I don't know, fabric or something added to the dress to just make myself feel a little bit more comfortable. So if you have a long torso and you're a bride-to-be and you have a dress that has a bodice, really think about having like an inch or 2 added to just make the dress a little bit longer and maybe like sit correctly on you. That is my only regret with my wedding dress, is like, I wish it would have been a little bit longer to cover me up a little bit more. Now, I did want to mention 2 more things that kind of were little bumps in the road on our wedding day. So first, we had a makeup girl kind of go rogue. I had paid for natural makeup application, and this hair and makeup team, they are the best in Asheville. Like, I 100% recommend them. but they had one girl go rogue and she was doing really heavy makeup on all of my bridesmaids, including my mom, and that caused a big headache. So she actually got fired on the spot, not by me, the owner of the company. I felt so bad about that. So they had to have one of the hair girls actually do makeup application. But anyway, so that little hiccup happened, and like I said, they are just the best of the best hair and makeup team, and the owner and the other girls couldn't have helped. Like, this one girl went rogue. And then with the photography team, they're also like an amazing group of photographers. One of the photographers got sick, so I only had 3 out of the 4 photographers that I paid for actually show up on the day. And I know it still sounds like a lot of photographers to have 3, but I was supposed to have 2 videographers and then 2 photographers. So we just had 1 videographer and 2 photographers. But anyways, it's all about expectations, and just little things are gonna happen like that on your wedding day. I felt like throughout the day, I was like, it's fine, it's fine, it's fine. And really, you just want to live in the moment and know that it really is about you and your partner, and then all of the people who have come to celebrate y'all's love. And I just have to say that it was truly the most magical weekend of my entire life, of my husband's life, and we just wish we could relive it over and over again, even with those regrets, you guys, even with those regrets. So if you are a bride-to-be planning your wedding, just know, yes, things will not go exactly as you plan them, but you're still gonna love your wedding anyways. All right, guys, so that's it. I hope you all enjoyed this video. If you have any other questions about our wedding weekend, be sure to leave them down in the comment section below. I will do my very best to answer all of your questions. I also did want to say a big thank you to HomeAglow for sponsoring this video. Remember to go to homeaglow.com/ChicOnTheCheap or scan the QR code here on the screen to get your first 3 hours of cleaning for only $19. As always, thank you so much for watching, and until my next one, I'll see you then.